Greetings and welcome to the Culture Ward, where we dissect and dismember pop culture in all its forms. My name is Jess, and today we're going to talk about another elephant in the room, the race swapping of characters in modern media. In the past few years, there have been several remakes, adaptations, and reimaginings of classic media properties that have caused controversy through casting decisions. Specifically, when established characters, and sometimes even real historical people, have been gender or race swapped. Now, there are many scenarios where an actor is cast to play a character based on the actor's talent. If that actor is the best for the role, then he gets the job, regardless of their ethnicity or physical features, and despite what the character may have looked like in prior incarnations. But all too often, it seems at least, that these casting decisions are nothing more than identity politics, almost meant to troll audiences, instead of selecting the best person for the job. In particular, some of the more controversial casting decisions have included casting an African American as Ariel in The Little Mermaid, who was famously white with red hair in previous adaptations. As a side note, there is this rather weird proclivity for Hollywood to recast red-headed characters with black actors. Some of the redheads include Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2, Heimdall from the MCU, Little Orphan Annie, Jimmy Olsen, got Daphne Blake from Scooby-Doo, Mary Jane or MJ from Spider-Man, and Ariel, as we mentioned. According to this article, Hollywood's choice to replace ginger characters with black actors can be seen as extraordinary and problematic. The extraordinary side is that Hollywood finally recognizes black actors because the younger generation can finally identify with heroes, heroines, princesses and princes, protagonists and antagonists, and see representation in the media they are exposed to. The problematic side is, what about the redheads or gingers in the younger generation? Unfortunately for them, their representation is slowly being whittled down to almost nothing. Inclusivity is a crucial step that Hollywood needs to take, but what is the use of pushing out one group of people to include another? So it's kind of a weird thing. They're actually erasing gingers. Other recent controversies include casting Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, as Snow White, probably the most famously white character in all of fiction. Or actually casting a black woman as Cleopatra, a real historical figure who was well known to have been Macedonian Greek, not black. A lot of these decisions have sparked outrage or ridicule, or at the very least confusion. It didn't seem to make sense to some people why they would do this unless they were intentionally inciting negativity. And I'm not saying there's not racists out there. Of course there are. There always will be. But believe it or not, most people aren't. Even most of the people that loudly oppose these casting decisions do it not because they're racist, but because they don't always make sense. They have to rewrite source material, and fans, real fans, actually care about fidelity to the original. Now, there have been many instances of race swap characters that fans were fine with. In fact, there were casting decisions that were applauded, such as Nick Fury, played by Samuel Jackson in the MCU. He was always a white character in the comics. Ford Prefect, played by Mos Def in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy film from 2006. I love this Ford Prefect. We've already mentioned Heimdall. Idris Elba plays Heimdall in the MCU, and he does a great job, and nobody seems to care about that. Ben Urich, played by Vondie Curtis Hall in the Netflix Daredevil series. Vondie Curtis Hall was perfect as Ben Urich, even though Ben Urich is a white guy in the comics. Michael Clarke Duncan's portrayal of Kingpin in the 2003 Daredevil movie. Or what about Billy D. Williams playing Harvey Dent in the 1989 Tim Burton Batman movie? We can go back to Eartha Kitt playing Catwoman in the 1967 Batman show. Or Halle Berry playing Catwoman in the 2003 film. I know it was a terrible film, but everybody loved Halle Berry. But sometimes these casting decisions just don't make any sense. In particular, recent news of HBO's casting in the new Harry Potter series has caused some controversy. Specifically, it's been reported that Papa Asiadu is near deal to play Snape in HBO series. Alright, so this is the problem. Not only was Snape famously played by Alan Rickman in the original movies, multiple times in the book he is described as having sallow skin. He's described as having pale skin, the color of sour milk. Once he's even described as being marble white, with curtains of greasy black hair. So why even make Snape black? What message are they trying to convey to us? First up, Snape is a total asshole. I don't care about his weak redemption arc at the end. He was a cruel bully as a child, and he grew up to be a cruel bully to children. And the biggest gripe about making Snape black, instead of how he was explicitly described by J.K. Rowling in nearly every installment of the books, is that his story will fundamentally change. At least people's perceptions of his story will change. This is the problem with race in modern society, is people's perceptions of a character will change based on their race. So we know from Snape's story that he was poor growing up, he lived in the bad neighborhood, he wore hand-me-down clothes, he was made fun of for his appearance, his parents were always fighting. And why is that a problem with Snape? He becomes a victim just by changing his race. Now he's a black guy that's going through all these troubles. And while there is some sympathy as for a white Snape, it will almost certainly be more for a black Snape. And that fundamentally changes his story. It makes him a different character. Moreover, making him black will mean that him being bullied in school by a group of white kids, including Harry's father, Sirius Black, and Remus Lupin, will make it seem like a hate crime. I mean, there's a scene in the books and the movies where James Potter and Sirius Black are bored, so they attack Snape under a tree and hang him upside down underneath the tree. That's almost certain to be interpreted as a lynching if he's a black guy. So you're also going to make the Marauders, James Potter, Sirius Black, and Remus Lupin into white supremacists. Why does the race of these characters matter? I hear many culture warriors scream. Back in 2023, when the casting decision for The Little Mermaid was announced, this writer, Alex Miller, wrote an article in Newsweek saying making white characters black isn't progress, it's pandering, and it insults black fans like Alex Miller. So actually, he was talking about the series The Last of Us, where one of the characters who was a white girl in the video game was cast as a black girl in the show. So he said he was deeply disappointed to see the latest episode feature a white character from the game, Maria, played by a black actress, and this despite being black himself. He writes, "I simply object to using the race of an actor as a sign and standard for what constitutes progress. It's an insult to my community, both to the long-fought struggle for representation and to the recent successes on that front." He refers to Disney having made 2 Black Panther films about the black leader of the most powerful and wealthy nation in the world, brought to the big screen on 2 separate occasions. Yet after that massive milestone, Disney decided that what we needed was the token representation of palette switching, announcing a black Ariel in their live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. "We are told our little sisters are jumping for joy across the nation because of this, that black moms are telling their children it's so great that Disney gave us this amazing bounty of manna from on high. Yet there are hundreds of stories of real black princesses Disney isn't making films about. Why choose to race swap an existing story about a historically white character from Danish folklore instead of investing in a real black one from African lore? In other words, Black Ariel is a step backward from Black Panther. People argue that The Little Mermaid is a mermaid and her color shouldn't matter. But if changing the race of a character is okay because race isn't relevant, as so many have said, then why make the character black at all? As soon as you do that, you've literally made race important enough to change it. Moreover, if the tables were turned, you can bet they would care. One of the best episodes of The Last of Us shows the beautifully tragic story of the characters of Sam and Henry, who are black in the game. Now imagine that suddenly they were white in the show, because apparently race doesn't matter. There would obviously be a huge backlash to such a decision. Or imagine if Marvel's Blade, the historically black vampire hunter, became a pasty white British man. They'd rain down fire and brimstone on Kevin Feige. Turns out we don't have to guess what they would do if the tables were turned. It was announced just last year that Sydney Agudong would be playing Nani in the new live-action Lilo and Stitch remake. So back in 2023, Sydney Agudong's casting announcement received immediate criticism and initiated a debate about colorism in the industry. At the time, many believed Sydney was light-skinned with native Hawaiian ancestry and that the role should have gone to a native Hawaiian with a darker skin tone. So they were mad back in 2023 that the actress that they chose to play Nani wasn't dark enough of a Hawaiian. Recently, the first trailer dropped for this movie, and people continue to criticize this actress because she looks darker in the trailer than she looked in previous set photos, I guess. Some people chimed in on X, formerly Twitter, with some interesting takes. They painted the Nani actress brown for this. Disney has failed native Hawaiians multiple times, especially my cousins who have dark brown skin. A dark-skinned native Hawaiian should have played Nani, and Disney is always colorist. In this one, they can put whatever shade foundation on Nani they want. It doesn't change the fact they cast a non-Hawaiian Wasian for a native Hawaiian role. Wasian? Is that not a slur? So this is what they do when a person of color is changed even a little bit. But race doesn't matter, right? That's the story, that if the tables were turned, there would be outrage about any difference in the character's color. If there are some great black actors and actresses that HBO just simply has to cast in the new Harry Potter series, then there are plenty of other roles that they could be cast in, including several characters who are already black in the source material, such as Angelina Johnson, Kingsley Shacklebolt, who is a really cool character, Dean Thomas and Lee Jordan. Otherwise, make Lupin or Professor Flitwick. What about Sirius Black? Make Cornelius Fudge, the Minister of Magic, a black guy. Even Hagrid. Why can't Hagrid be black? It's going to be weird not seeing Robbie Coltrane play Hagrid anyway. Really, there's only a handful of characters that shouldn't be changed. Harry Potter, the Weasleys, Dumbledore, probably Voldemort, and then, although I might be open to argument for that, probably Professor McGonagall, but probably most importantly, Severus Snape. His character would so fundamentally change. Anyway, what do you think about this? Do you think it's a bad idea to change the race of Severus Snape or any of the characters in Harry Potter? Or do you care? Is it going to change your opinion of this TV show? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want to see more content. Bye for now, and I hope to see you next time in the Culture War.